that. So I need a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about today's agenda? All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. We'll make a note that Dave Klott is not available today. He's coaching football, so wish him well. Item 3, reports. Dr. Funk.
Okay, first day of school was complete today. And here's what we know today. Our first day attendance to include K-12, and this includes ALC students, we're at 3315. As a comparative number, we were at 3247 in 2014-15 with our AL students. So attendance is up. What's not on here is our kindergarten. Lori works with an individual to come in with estimates of kindergarten every year, because that's really the big unknown for the district. And I think what her estimate was 250 this year, and it came in at 253. So pretty much right on. And then we've had some growth in some of the other grades. If you hear any discussion in the community on class sizes, I thought I'd put this up here for you. Our targets for the district, if it's grades K through 2, we try to keep it at 24 or less, or we will keep it at 24 or less. Grade 3, we go up to 26, and grades 4 and 5, we go up to 30 students. We are adding a halftime teacher to Sibley. We've posted for the position late last week. We had 65, 32 and 33 middle last week, and now that's down to 63. So we have 32 and 31. So we're going to hire a halftime teacher at Sibley, and this individual, and that's in 5th grade, and this individual will teach the core classes, the core instruction. So when students are in reading, math, science, they will have they'll be divided into 3 groups. And then when they go to their specialist time in the afternoons, which is Phy Ed, music, art, they'll be in 2 groups. So if you hear any talk in the community, that's what's happening in grade 5 at Sibley. Secondary class sizes range from low 20 to the mid 30s. And that's pretty typical for Elberly.
Is there space at Sibley for all that?
Yes, there is. Yep. First day concerns, Chromebook access to the wireless network at Riverland. We're having issues with our filter. We're trying to have filters so that what the students see is filtered. And we are having access issues that we continue to work through. Been working on them since last week. Jim, any update from Mark?
No, he just responded back that he's working on it. He's hoping that it's working tomorrow, and the other option is to open it up so that kids can use the internet.
Okay.
With teachers watching until we get it working with the filter.
Okay. HVAC settings in some of the buildings. Some of them are warm. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, we're not talking 80-some degree warm, but 74, 75 degrees in some of the rooms. So we're trying to get a handle on that. And then academy electives. This came up this morning. I heard about it. It's the 8th grade academy, which is the new program at the high school for some more of our at-risk students. Students who've been asked to be in the academy, there's a conflict when some of the music courses meet. And so what they're trying to work through, at least at the 8th grade at this point, is if you're in the academy, you can still have music lessons throughout the year, still stay current in music, but you probably won't be able to be in the big group. So that's what I heard at noon today as far as where they were at. They were still working on the issue. Moving to 9th graders, there's no conflict with the 9th grade academy. So that's the only scheduling blip I've heard of at the high school as of today. So that's something that Jeff Halverson is working through. All right, Chromebooks. All but 8 of our teachers have received training on Chromebooks. And again, there was an article in the paper on Chromebooks. They're being purchased. Where's the money coming from? It's part of a replacement plan of desktops. So we're replacing old desktops with Chromebooks. And then we figure if the teachers have the Chromebooks for at least a year before students start to get them, it'll only take the student about 3 days to get ahead of the teacher when they get them next year. So the teachers will have a little bit of a head start on them. Okay, so here's some of your numbers for new courses when we're talking about increasing opportunity and achievement for our students. AP Econ, Bio, Calculus, AP Government, and then French. First year in French, there's 6 sections of it, 167 students. So that's definitely a need that is being met. I don't know why he doubled this up. So our total AP in enrollment is 194 students. So I told Mark, just saw him briefly before the meeting, I said, when we have 194 students take the AP test in the spring, that'll be more than I think we ever did in the entire history of the Obertly Area School District. I think we had 1 student take the AP exams last year, 2 of them. So I think that's exciting for the district. And then there's the breakdown by grades.
Some of those might be duplicated by course, right?
Yes, so it could, not single students, but 194 enrollees might be kids taking 2 or 3 classes. And there's your French breakdown. Interesting to see a lot of, a section of juniors and seniors are taking French. Okay, so new this year, within the, throughout the district, we have a model we're calling instructional coaches, and you've heard a little bit about it. Just want to clarify a few more things on it. We've got 4 teachers in the district who are coaches, 2 at the elementary level, 1 at Southwest, and 1 at the high school for special education instruction. Their role is to help teachers improve core instruction. And so I've been asked in the community, and this is why I've put the slide up here, well, why are you paying for instructional coaches when you could be reducing class sizes elsewhere? And the reason is we are receiving money from the state for pilot programming, and we can't utilize the pilot grant for class size reduction. It's got to be for something specific. So that's what we're doing with the coaches. And I think that's it. Questions from the board?
I have a question. What does staffing look like for lunch supervisors this year in the different buildings? Might not have that answer right now.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you. But I was fortunately, I saw, I think about 4 lunches today. And I don't think I've ever seen more adults in the lunchroom, and I'm not sure. Some may have been teachers, but I know that at the elementary level and at Southwest we have monitors who come in for lunch. But I can get you those numbers. Yep.
Have you heard a concern, Jill, or what's the reason for the question?
Yeah, I have heard some questions from the community about that. It seems like there's a feeling that it's understaffed with supervisors, so that's why I was wondering.
Other questions for Mike? Thanks. All right, our study session tonight is a district assessment update with Kathy and Mary Jo. So.
Test. There we go. Can you see us? Okay. So, yeah. Helps me. Okay, so part of this was from the opening session that Dr. Funk did with staff at the beginning of the year. We spent some time this summer talking at the PLC Institute, as a matter of fact, about vision and beliefs. And so it's been really a theme through most of our staff's introductory meetings. So our vision and belief is that all students can achieve to the best of their ability. And the other piece that we are going to spend a lot of time on this year, which is we've talked about in the past, but more intentional this year, is a guaranteed and viable curriculum for our diverse learning community here. So a guaranteed and viable curriculum for diverse learners basically means it's, according to Marzano, is the single most important initiative a school or district can engage in to raise student achievement. And you'll see as we talk about the elementary reading curriculum, which you've heard Mary Jo talk about a few times, what that means for our students. Every student is provided the opportunity to learn a core curriculum, which provides them with the probability of success in school. And coursework is taught with fidelity to the curriculum by the teaching staff. And so that's a piece that Dr. Funk has talked about with teachers and other staff. What are we teaching? How are we teaching it? Are we all on track? And I think our K-5 reading piece, as you'll see, looks nice, and math is on its way, and now we're working on that secondary piece. The curriculum for each grade level and course must be clearly written, thoroughly communicated, measurable, rigorous enough to challenge each student, and relevant to the 21st century learners. A review of our data. Is our curriculum meeting the needs of our learners? So the data we're going to show you is our current reality related to district achievement goals in regard to state testing. I do have some of the growth results. I didn't take that off of here. They weren't available at the beginning of the year. And as Dr. Funk told staff, do not personalize results. We all own them. Test scores are simply one indication or a snapshot of learning, and the results demonstrate trend data about the curriculum that's being taught over time. A little update to this. You'll see Ramp Up to Readiness has been removed, and we have the student pathways based on interest and ability added. And then we've kept the plan piece in there at grade 10 because that data is still there to help our 11th graders. So these are the free and reduced demographics of the Big 9 school districts.
The reason that this is important is particularly at the secondary level, we hear from our staff, okay, our students are poor, our students are poor. It is a big factor for them that we have high free and reduced count. And so I shared this with them to demonstrate to the staff, okay, where Albert Lee fits within the Big 9, and how we fit with the state of Minnesota. And there's a few slides in here that, just a few comparative data to Albert Lee and the Big 9. But if you look, Owatonna, Austin, Faribault are within the ballpark of where Albert Lee is at as far as free and reduced.
So this is the district graduation trend of all students. So we talk about graduation rates. This is the 4-year graduation rate. And numerically, the state of Minnesota is 81.2%, and Albert Lee at 76.6.
Significant on this slide as well, you see when you look at the free and reduced rates, you see where Austin's at, see where Faribault is at, but look how high Owatonna is as a district. Okay.
So you can see that Albert Lee High School by itself. And then these are all the schools pulling out, for the most part, the ALCs. Austin may have some of their ALC students in there because they are a school within a school. Owatonna's ALC is separate, and our ALC is separate, so I didn't include those numbers on here. So what this is the green line is statewide school district averages, and then Albert Lee school district scores. This is grade 10 science. MCAs, correct, accountability MCAs. And this, yes. And then if we pull out our free and reduced lunch population, you can see that we fall slightly below the state free and reduced population. This is grade 8 science total and grade 8 science free and reduced. This is grade 5 science, and you can see our free and reduced at the 5th grade performs nicely above the state average.
So a troubling statistic for me is to see our kids in grade 5 consistently perform above the state average, and go back a couple slides. And here we get to grade 8 or grade 10. Mm-hmm. And this is again is where we're talking about the guaranteed and viable curriculum. What are we teaching in 8th grade? Is it really embedding the state standards like it's supposed to, or are we just teaching whatever we want in science?
So here's grade 8 reading and our free and reduced, and grade math, all students, and grade 8 math free and reduced. And I did have an interesting conversation with Kevin Gentz just the other day. The 8th grade math curriculum, they jumped right on this on Friday, trying to see why this number is a dip here in grade 8.
I would say, go back a couple. Okay. It's not necessarily a dip. It's pretty consistent with the trend line over time.
Right.
So, okay.
Grade 6 reading. Grade 6 free and reduced reading. Grade 6 math. Free and reduced. Grade 3 reading all students. And grade 3 free and reduced.
So the nice part about this, it's a slightly positive trend until 14. Then you see a pretty significant separation with the state average for free and reduced. Okay. So we threw in the Big 9 on this one. For the high school and the Big 9, you would see that Albert Lee would be towards the bottom with the Faribaults, the Austins of the world for most of the slides or most of the graphs we just showed you. This one is pretty interesting because, again, we have our free and reduced rate is 52% in the district. The state is 38%. Look, we are almost at the state average for proficiency in reading with significantly more free and reduced percentage. And look where we fit in the Big 9 for our free and reduced students. We are in 3rd place. And 11 points above the state average. So we are really, and again, that could be directly attributed to the work of Mary Jo Dorman and the principals, teaching a curriculum to fidelity. This is what we do, and really embracing a curriculum that meets the needs of the students where they're at. So we're starting to see some significant gains there.
Grade 3 math.
And again, another real success story. A couple years ago in math, we have a program called Everyday Math. And teachers in the elementary are not necessarily big fans of everyday math. But a few years ago when we started with the benchmark program for reading, we had the principals go to the teachers and say, this is the math we've had it for a number of years. We are now going to start teaching it like we're supposed to. to fidelity, like the program says, this is what we will teach, and we will follow the program. And look at the results we've started to see in math when we are guaranteeing that we're gonna follow the curriculum as it is. And that was with the old math, and this year we have a new math program that we have purchased. So go ahead and go to the next slide on that. Look where Albert Lee is in math in 3rd grade. And again, take a look at us compared to the Faribaults, the Owatannas, even look at Rochester on the right-hand side over there. So the intent of the slides that we showed was to demonstrate to the teachers that if we adopt a curriculum and we teach it with fidelity, then good things will happen with our students.
So last week, the MMR results were released. It is part of Minnesota's waiver with NCLB, the accountability system. And the state's focus is to close the achievement gap and promote high growth for all students. So they have 2 measures. One is the MMR. It's given to all schools in the state on an annual basis and measures school performance in the areas of proficiency, growth, achievement gap reduction, and then high school's graduation rate. So all schools except for high schools have the first 3, and then the high school has a graduation rate. So they have 2 scores on this. The first, the MMR, they weight the students in these areas. So they measure these groups: all students, Asian population, Hispanic population, Black population, white, limited English proficiency, special education, and free and reduced population. You have to have 20 students in that group to be rated. And then their second rating is called a focus rating, and it's very similar to the first rating, except that it takes out the all-student population and it takes out the white population. So it focuses on just the populations of Asian, Hispanic, Black, LEP, special education, free and reduced population. And the goal Minnesota has set is to close the achievement gap in half by 2017. It's interesting, last week, if you saw in the news, some of the MMR ratings were by district, and I went out to find that, and Department of Ed says multiple measurement ratings are not computed at the district level, so I got it right off their website. So so some of the numbers you might be seeing for districts are kind of hand calculated maybe by people, but MDE doesn't release that figure. So here are the Albert Lee area schools. So you get so many points. You can earn up to 25 points in a category. And this one, the MMR, what we've kind of focused on is that number of proficiency targets met. So you saw all those categories in the previous slide. Halverson has 6 categories in math and reading, 6 groups. And they met their target in 1 out of 6 in math and 3 out of 6 in reading. So depending on how well you do is how many points you get. So Hawthorne, 2 out of 6. I should have said 2 out of 6 in reading as well. That's an error. Math for Lakeview is 4 of 6 and 3 of 5, or 4 of 5 and 3 of 5. And Sibley is our reward school. They met all of their targets. The high school in math and reading did not meet any targets this year. Neither did Southwest or the Area Learning Center. And then the gap reduction is done on a data analysis based on a Z-score, and basically it's a bell curve. And it's kind of where you fall on that bell curve, 0 to 100, and Sibley fell on the high end. And so they weight the groups depending on the number of students you have in that cell, and then they get weighted based on your largest group, and that's about all I can tell you on that. We could spend a lot of time digging into it, but this is the curve for that. And then this is the focus rating, taking out our total student population as a group and taking out the white population as a group, and then you'll see the graduation. And the high school had a graduation rate that achieved above the target, which put them at 100% there, and the ALC at 33.2%. So you get 25 proficiency points, 25 growth points, and then 25 achievement gap points, for a total of 75. And then this is what's now used for AYP. And then they have another chart that converts these all to yes and no's, and that gets then submitted for AYP at the federal level. So the graduation. So you have a target for how many students should graduate. And if you hit that target, you get the percentage.
So the state wants to have 90% by such and such date.
Right.
So we're on the glide path to hit the 90% or 88% rate. So we
Yeah.
have 100% at once.
So the high school had 100%. The Area Learning Center was weighted also because of its subgroups at 33.2%, which I don't have that number up there. So that they got the total of 8.3 points, which equals the 33.2% of the 25. That's quite a lesson, sorry. Any other questions on that?
A question generally, what is your theory about the zeros past elementary school?
It's all or nothing. And so Mary and Joe and I have kind of been talking today mostly about Lakeview, which has kind of been up and down. And so one of the comments the Department of Ed has made is Minnesota set a goal to close the achievement gap in half by 2017, and the targets will continue to increase each year up to 2017. So I expected when I looked across 2010 to 2015, that target would climb, but it doesn't. It goes up and down relative to the number of students in the cell, relative to the number of total population. So for the high school, if I look at some of their targets, their total target for math was to have a 69% proficiency, and they hit 52%. Some of the targets, they were close. One of the subgroups, which they don't like you to identify because it's less than 20, the target was 43. There was 11 students, and they hit 40. One of the targets for a subgroup was 16, and we hit 28. But because there wasn't 20 in there, those two subgroups don't count. Our white population, which was 339 students, the target was 73, and we hit 58. So are we setting the bar high enough for all of our student groups? Our limited English proficiency students, the target was 34, we hit 21. Our special ed population, the target was 40, we hit 22, and this is in math. So it's zero because it's no, we didn't hit any of those targets. So you get nothing.
So why not?
That's a good question.
Well, you've been
So-
part of this district how many years? So give me your take on the high school.
Here's, one of the pieces that we've talked a lot about is, do we have a solid core instruction? Do we have a solid core curriculum? In early August, I attended the state assessment conference, and they rolled out something that has been out there for a while, but they were revised last year, and they're called the achievement level descriptors. And what they are, and I've shared them with Southwest staff and some high school staff. And so for each grade level, and this is really small, but basically this is the point between the standards and the instruction, and then out here, the MCAs. And we've talked for years about you have to dig into the standards. What do they mean? What's essential? And what they have done is decided kind of for us, these were the essential pieces. And if our students aren't out here in this meet category, this plus this, then they probably aren't going to be successfully meeting our standards, and they probably aren't going to be successful in meeting the testing achievement requirements. So this was rolled out in early August, and it was posted to their website on August 31st. And so last week we rolled them out as the Southwest students or teachers were looking at their assessments and what kind of language they're using, and are all these pieces being taught. I had a brief meeting with one English grade level last week and having one tomorrow morning with another. Is everybody, we talk about guaranteed and viable curriculum. Are we all teaching the same thing? Maybe in a different manner, but are we teaching the same thing? Science and math are available, but they're not laid out as nicely as this. But I took the science, the grade 8 science, which is grade 6, 7, and 8, all tested together on that grade 8. I think there's some things that we may be missing, or we may have out of alignment. I had the ALC science teacher last year take a look at some of our curriculum, and he said, you know, this isn't tested on the MCAs. It's important, and we know because the MCA tells you, the test specs tell you this will be tested in the test, this will be tested in the classroom. So those things that are tested in the classroom, maybe we want to put those in May. And the things that are going to be tested on the tests need to be shifted up. And so part of it is, do we have core curriculum in the right place, and do we have the core curriculum? I know that Mary Jo has talked a lot about really pet projects that teachers have over the years that they really like to do because they're really special. Do we have too much of that at the secondary? I think so, maybe in some places. Is the curriculum engaging? Is it keeping all of our students really excited about coming to school every day? Is it relevant? Is it pushing them far enough? So those are all, I think, really important questions. When a teacher decides, gosh, you know, I want to change this, well, who's checking on that? And so with Kenneth Griswold and the Chromebooks last week, we are pretty sure we have a framework for how we want curriculum to look, and no longer will everybody get to lay it out the way they want. We want to know this, we want to know this. I want to know where their skill indicators are being taught, and how do we know that? I had a couple good conversations with teachers about, so when you do that group thing, how do you know every student has participated to the level? Well, and then finally said, yeah, we don't. So why not? So I think we have a lot of work to do at the secondary level. And is that why we have zeros? Maybe. Yeah.
What about I want to make sure I say this correctly. I think last year we had 30 students that had grade point averages over 4.
Correct. The weighted grades.
And
Yep.
but then I'm trying to wrestle that with 0 for 6, 0 for 6. So I mean, is that more about rigor? Is that what we're talking about? Is that part of this? Is it the big part of it? And I'm not discounting
Yeah.
the kids that got grade point average over 4. They earned those averages. But when there's that many kids above 4, and we're 0 for 6 in 2 categories,
Yep.
I just have trouble reconciling those.
I do too. And I think one of the things Mark Grossglass has looked at the high school is, so he brought in Tom Cody with Top 20 to talk about, you know, our beliefs in kids. But the other piece is he's set up some non-negotiables. Extra credit is not going to be allowed. Enrichment, yes. Extra credit, no. We want to make sure that all of our students are learning that core curriculum the way we want them to. And I wish I had all those other pieces with him. But and he's got some pushback, but we're here to support that, of course. I think number one is, do we have a core curriculum that meets the standards? And I'm thinking in places we don't. And how do we monitor that? And we have the technology to do it. We've talked about with some teachers, well, I can build that. Well, maybe we're not curriculum developers. And a lot of people like to create those pieces, but we are not curriculum developers. I'm really concerned about the writing piece. We have a writing test that will be pending at some point. The MDE has not said which year that's coming in. And we've always done well with that in the past, before it went away. But I'm not so sure that we have a solid writing curriculum. Actually, I'm fairly sure we don't have a solid writing curriculum, and we need to work on that. And we have some courses, I know, with our students when they get college in the school's credit. I have a daughter who just left to go to Winona State, and she got some transfer credit, which is great. But because she took the college in the schools classes, she doesn't take a college writing course, and that's of concern. So, and our AP courses should be having writing in them. That's an expectation of the College Board, and I'm not sure we saw that. Do we have a writing manual at the high school? Nope. Do we have consistent style? And I know that we had a great conversation about that at Southwest last week on the assessment day. What does good writing look like? Well, we just expect them to come in and you know, I called Mary Jo and I said, so where are you at with that? And she said, you have to model it, you have to model it. And so it's that secondary expectation of kids should come in with that versus, well, maybe they are coming in with that, but what does that mean to you? And I use the example of people ask me all the time, do you write letters of recommendations for other teachers or for students? Do you have a sample of mine that you could lend me? Sure. So even as adults, we ask for those pieces. So why wouldn't we model that for kids and then raise the bar for them to do something of quality? So, yeah. We have a lot of work to do. Is that the cure-all of zero? I don't know, but we sure can do better. And I think our teachers want to do better. I don't know if they always know how to do that. And to expect them to build it,
Adopt.
yeah.
Adopt is the key word.
Yeah, so.
I think it was pretty impactful at the opening ceremony. Well, Bill was there and Dave was there. What? Yeah, I thought there were two people there. To really see that we're taking away kids at risk, we can meet the needs of kids at risk just as we should like any student. And I think it was, you could hear the ooh when they saw the kids above the free and reduced population in third grade, above state average, and then you saw the high school scores way down. You could hear gasps in the audience, like, and I don't know if it was high school teachers or elementary teachers, I don't know, I didn't turn around, but it felt bad. I mean, it felt like we got work to do. And these kids in elementary are coming forward, and they've had, you know, I think the success has been because we built a strong Tier 1 and Tier 2, so we're seeing kids who are getting double instruction through our Title I dollars, which is what they're meant to do, is serve at-risk kids, that it's very clear what you do in a Tier 1 setting, the classroom setting, and a Tier 2 setting, the intervention. And messages in elementary, and teachers are fine with it, that we don't have time for pet projects because we got to do all this, so everything goes. And at first, you know, it's hard to believe, like, really, we're going to do this in Overtley? We've never taken away pet projects. Yep, we're doing it. So things went to the wayside, and I remember our first year when we adopted with the reading curriculum, and we said, here's where we want kindergartners to leave in the spring of in the spring of their kindergarten year. We want them to be reading at a level C. And you hear that as, you know, we hadn't been doing that, and the kindergarten teachers are like, we can't do that. And like, can we give it a try? Let's just try it. And now it's like, hey, Mary Jo, the kindergarten teachers are calling me, hey, I don't have enough books at a DE level. Can you get some more in order for me? Yeah, that's a good problem. We'll take care of it. So I think it's changing mindsets and it's changing expectations. And it is having the leadership to say, as a district and principals, that you can't go into a classroom and do what you want. You're not an independent contractor. You are an instructor for this district. And as a district, we all work together on teams to figure out what's best for kids. Not one of us is making decisions, but when we as a team make a decision, you have to follow it. And so that's where the instructional coaches are going to start playing a role, because same thing, I see the importance of their role as we continue going down the reading path and hire new teachers. And just over time, it naturally happens. You might get lax on a little piece of something. They can be in there to say, hey, remember why we got to do this? You know, they're coming from a strength base to say, all right, you got this going, but let's step up the rigor on this. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Other comments or questions? Yeah.
What did you say, Bill?
A question about free and reduced. The teachers, I mean, obviously, when the kids take the test, somehow the testing company knows if it's a free and reduced student, but the teachers don't, right?
No, we don't know.
But then how do, I mean, if we're seeing that, we're looking at that group for some reason more than the other groups, then how do we fix that group if we can't identify them? You know what I'm saying?
I think-
I think it's fascinating to get the data, but if they're all in the
think
classroom and we don't
yeah,
identify them.
But I think we raised the floor to meet the needs of all of our learners. And I think that's what we're doing within the elementaries.
I don't, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I'll talk on this issue. I don't need to know, when I'm teaching, I don't need to know who's free and reduced, or who a free and reduced student is in front of me. I need to know what's their ability. Oh, they're lacking, let's get on it. And so really target. Now, sometimes, yeah, it's you know if they're coming from a struggling home or, you know, living in shelters, whatever. Yes, you know they're free and reduced. We don't need to know that. But that's, I don't care if they're free and reduced. I care, oh, they're really low, let's get working on them. And then you're working with that intervention team to, all right, we got to do this, let's make a plan. I mean, we're making plans all the time. We don't have time to waste in these kids' lives. And that's kind of the message in elementary is, we got them for 1 year in your class, and it's not going to be because of us that they're going to fall behind. We're going to boost them up. And I think that's why we saw kind of that high growth rate is, I think everybody's understanding, everybody's on the same team in the elementary buildings. They don't question the fidelity anymore. It's like, you see the results, oh, we got it, it's working.
So how are we gonna change it in high school? It's like, how are we gonna change it?
The part of what we took out here at the back-to-school event last week, I shared with them the 4-minute mile. And I shared with them how it was impossible till 1954 for anybody to run faster than 4 minutes. And then we talked about, or I talked about it, because it was belief. This is physiologically impossible to run faster than 4 minutes. Nobody can do it. And the fastest guy ran it in 1946 or 45 at 4:01. So there's no way we can break 4 minutes. So along comes Roger Bannister. He says, I could do it. He gets a couple of his buddies to pace him on the race, and lo and behold, he does it. Within 3 years, 16 other people had broke the 4-minute mile. Okay? So within 3 months, somebody else broke the 4-minute mile because, you know what, we believe we can do this. Wow, this is attainable. I think at our high school right now, we have a building of, and the reason we showed free and reduced is because I hear it. I hear it all the time with these poor kids. Okay, these poor kids, we do what we can with these kids we get. And okay, well, let's see how we do compared to the state of Minnesota with these kids. We do not do very well with this group of kids. So wanted to show that data, and then I want to show the elementary data that, guess what? All right, if you embrace a curriculum and you teach it like it's supposed to be taught, and you meet the needs of the learners where they're at, they will grow and we will have some success. But and Kathy heard it from me this morning. She's been working with Kenneth for the past few weeks on this. I have English 10 classes. Depending on what teacher you have, you'll get this curriculum in teacher A, this curriculum in teacher B, this curriculum in teacher C. How is that guaranteed? So one of the things, now that we have Kathy leading the secondary charge here, is working with teachers to identify a relevant curriculum, adopt the relevant curriculum, and then, embrace it, implement it to meet the needs of our students. The teachers who do an AP have maybe an advantage because they've been to AP training, they're getting AP curriculum. But for the other teachers, maybe not so much. So that's the challenge, and that's the reason why we chose free and reduced.
Would it be beneficial, since I'm sure that the 52% or whatever it is underreported anyway? Could we do an article in the newspaper or something to kind of bring awareness and encourage people, or a letter to the editor or something?
Yeah, we can, and I didn't want to touch it last year when we were in the calendar discussion, when the paper came out and said poverty's not an issue in Freeborn County. I was pretty, so absolutely, we can do something about that.
The privacy part of it. Yep, yep.
Makes people at ease to do. 'Cause I know we've been in that situation.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
Anything else you two?
So this is really what we've already said. You know, one of the, when the administrative group was meeting, and one of the comments made was, again, that it's not that our teachers don't want to do a good job. I'm not sure that, as one of the admins said, I don't know if they all have the confidence to change and do something different. And so we need to give them the tools and show them that if we stick to our guns, so to speak, on what we're doing, we can see success. We've seen it in the elementary. So looking at that relevant, viable curriculum is really the focus at the secondary level. You know, in particular, at science and English are the two areas we're going to be focusing on heavily this year, and it's not a one-year project, but we have some really good teachers who want to do the right thing. We just need to, I think, focus that and be intentional, very intentional about what we do.
Thanks. Other comments? I mean, I have a hope that this will all improve, but, you know, hope doesn't get you far, but I have faith in both of you, honestly, that you have a plan, you're gonna execute it, and I just would let you know from my standpoint that I will back you up, because you're gonna get some pushback, and so I think our job is to listen to the pushback, but to ultimately work with you to get the results that we all need.
Thank you.
Bill, just to ask feedback from being at the session. What were your thoughts on it?
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I know, I thought, I can't leave here without saying a word, so I'm talking on this.
All right, thank you both. Item 5, we need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 13D.03, for the purpose of labor negotiations. Need a motion? Linda, second? Second. Second, Julie. Any discussion?